Hello, and welcome back to Worm Watts, where we harness the God-given power of compost worms to transform organic waste into amazing living fertilizer. Today, we are back in our new leaf litter bin, one of our fungal-dominant bins, as a part of our football season worm challenge. So, this is a bin of red wiggler composting worms, Eisenia fetida, and we went ahead and put them in a bin where the bedding and the food, really, is all fall leaves. There's also a jute bag that the fall leaves were left in outside for some time before this bin was started. But essentially, this bin is composed of fall leaves. And so we are checking in to see how they progress over the course of an entire football season. And so we're here 2 weeks after we added in our worms. So we've given them 2 weeks to kind of see what they'll do, and let's see what's going on in here. Right off the bat, I noticed that we've got a zoom in there so you can see too. We've got a roly-poly, or a pill bug over there. Seems to be kind of still. Not sure what it's doing there. And then, I'm gonna zoom out again. I've noticed that we have an ant crawling. Let me see, they're right there, right there. Not sure if you can see it, but it's crawling around. So we've got some ants. Oh yeah, there are more ants actually. There's one right there. So, oh wow. Yeah, we have quite a few ants. They're on the bag, and they seem to be investigating what we are doing here. So I'm really hoping that they have left our worms to do what they need to do. But yeah, we've got ants right over there as well. So yeah, that was something that we knew coming into this bin, and I'm really hopeful that it will not be a problem for us, but we'll have to wait and see. So I'm gonna lift the jute bag, and we've definitely got some activity from our fellow decomposers. The sow bugs are in here moving around kind of quick. Those are some isopods that you might notice even in your own backyard, and they're similar to roly-polies, but they don't roll up. So that's a layman's definition for you. So I know we've got ants in here, so I do want to be a little bit careful, but I am going to go ahead and dig in and see if we can see any worms. So we've got some ants crawling around. Ooh, just picked up a large clump of leaves, and so far I'm not seeing any worm activity, but I am seeing ant activity down there. So this is rather interesting to see just how many ants we might have in this bin. The ants seem to be doing fine. The isopods seem to be doing fine. But I need to find the worms. So let's hope that the worms are doing all right as well. Now, if you've been following our journey with fungal dominant bins, we actually have another fungal dominant bin whose main source of carbon is wood chips. And the last time we were in there, we actually saw mycelium, which is visible fungal, an accumulation of fungal hyphae, or fungal threads, you might call them. So we saw actual visible fungal growth. And I'm not seeing that here as we dig into these leaves, but that's okay. Doesn't mean that the fungi are not active, but it might just not be in a way that's super visible to us. So even as I'm digging further down, I'm still not really seeing any sign of our worms. And I'm not sure if they prefer maybe the down deep into the bin, where maybe it's more moist. So I'm gonna work my way down there and see what we see. And again, we've got a lot of isopods here. So I'll zoom out for you so that you can take a look too. A lot of isopods moving around. But still no worms. So let's go a little bit further. We've got a little bit of muckiness down there in the bottom. The worms are not anywhere to be found yet. So will we find any? That is the question. So far, 2 corners in, we have not found any, which is a worrisome sign. Hopefully the worms have not given up on our football season challenge. All right, let's go ahead and... The ants are definitely navigating all of this just fine, even down in the lower portions of the bin. I'm definitely going to be adding in more moisture to this bin as well, because ants really don't like a lot of moisture. I'm hoping that will keep the ants from just taking over the bin entirely. But yeah, not seeing any of our worms so far. And all right. Oh, there we go. Just found one. So the worms appear to be in here. They're just deeper and hidden. I definitely saw one of our striped worm friends. And I'm trying to regularly brush my hands off to make sure that I'm not getting ants traveling on me. But the worms do appear to be in the bin. Well, there's evidence of one worm in the bin. So let's dig further into that area, see if we see anything else. Oh yeah, you can see it's definitely very moist down here. So this was another takeaway that we had from our first fruits bin, which I thought was ready to harvest, but it was not. And one of the takeaways from that bin was making sure that the bin is not too wet. Down here you can see a little bit of accumulated moisture in the bottom of the bin, and we want to try to avoid too much of that. So I feel like the bin moisture is going to kind of, looks like it's actually fine. I don't want to spray the top and then have a whole bunch of moisture work its way down here and create an anaerobic pocket. So I think I might actually hold off on adding more water to this bin. What that's going to mean is that the worms will probably stay toward the bottom of the bin where it's nice and moist, where the water is kind of accumulating, where the moisture is really heavier. And toward the top of the bin, we'll expect a drier area where it'll be a lot more welcoming for creatures like ants, and even from my understanding, isopods like to have access to a moist and a dry environment. So a portion of their habitat might be moist and another portion of it might be dry. I don't know the why behind that, but that is what I have read. So yeah, so here we are in the bin. We found one worm, and we're going to our final corner. We've checked 3 out of the 4 corners of this bin, and 2 of them we didn't find any worms in. The third one we just found a worm in. And it seems like the worms are definitely bedding down deep in the wetter part of the bin, which again makes a lot of sense, and it keeps them hopefully away from some of the ants and things that like a little bit of a drier environment. I was also concerned that the ants might start to eat our worms, but if the worms are staying in the moister part of the environment, I don't think we'll have that problem. So it is crazy to navigate a bin that has so many ants, but I guess they can live in harmony together. So, all right, I will moisten this area because it's just very visibly dry. I think that's enough. We don't want to oversaturate this bin. Trying to be careful with navigating with the ants. Not sure what kind they are. Probably be good to find out. All right, so I think that we're gonna find a good few worms in this region here. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to pull that back so that we can see what's awaiting us there. And ants do tend to be a little bit protective over their homes being raided like this. So I'll try to just get in and get out. All right, so I've pulled back some of this upper leaf litter, and you can see a worm there. Right there. So the worms do appear to be in here, and they seem to have found their niche area to occupy. So that's good. And look, oh wow, I think there was a worm or an ant in that area that seemed to be carrying something. Not sure if it was an egg or if it was an isopod, but the diversity in this bin is really neat. So, and you can see right here, got a little family of isopods against the edge of the bin, and they're kind of very active. Oh, here we go. That was the ant that I was trying to show you. If I can, there it is. It's right there. It's carrying something. Not sure if we'll be able to see it, but I'll try to keep you as close as we can get. It's incredible the work that ants do, and especially when their environment is, oh my goodness, I found the ant nest. Goodness, that is it. I've got a ton of ants moving around. Wow, okay. So this is the ant nest, and I'm going to actually just remove this whole jute bag because I do not want these ants in here. So I'm gonna take this outside and we're gonna remove it. All right, we are back outside. We're resuming this episode outside. And you can see the ants. They've had a few minutes to kind of settle, but they are very active. It looks like we may have disturbed their nest, and they may have been removing eggs and other larval ants from the area. Not sure if you can see them, but they're very active. I've put them in this bed of wood chips here, and I'm hoping that this will be the end of our ant problem. I'm gonna try to zoom in on some of the action here. You can see that ant right there carrying something with it. So again, it does seem like their nest was disturbed and they had eggs in it. But I'm hopeful that I removed the queen when I pulled the sack, because that's where I was seeing all of the ants really congregating. So anyway, those are the ants. We've lost our jute sack. I'll go ahead and replace it with another one. But what an amazing little occurrence. I'm so glad that we found where the bulk of the ants were. Let's go ahead and head back to the bin. All right, and we are back. Never had such a crazy little episode before, but we ended up finding the ants. And I'm hopeful that that is really the bulk of them. Any that are not, as long as the queen is gone, the other ants will work their way out, I imagine. I've got a couple dedicated workers here. And when you consider that ants communicate via pheromones and chemical signals, and that their bin just got raided, I'm a little bit concerned that the remaining ants might be in a kind of a protective response. I've actually got another ant I'd like to zoom in on here, because it is carrying another larval kind of creature right there. You can see it in the corner. And I'm not sure what it is that it's carrying. I'm not sure if it attacked and bit an isopod, or if it's carrying an egg, but man, I'm really hoping that we got the queen. Otherwise, we're gonna have this problem again. So, yeah, bear with us as we try to figure out over the course of this football season if we'll be able to kick the ants. I did not anticipate this kind of problem. If it continues, we may have to resort to other means, such as diatomaceous earth. I'm not a big fan of using diatomaceous earth within a worm bin, because it indiscriminately wipes out a lot of your insects, because it affects their exoskeletons. So, and I don't want to do that wide scale across the bin. Mites and things like that, you can really manage them a lot better just by changing your bin conditions. You know, the moisture and the food amount, things like that. So I don't want to wide scale wipe out everybody, but ants can be a big enough problem that it could be worthwhile. I have not eliminated the possibility that these could be fire ants. If any of you are more knowledgeable about ants, maybe you can rewatch the video and see if you can identify our invaders. I've got a couple of them over here. They're fairly large as well, and they are well spread throughout this bin, so I don't think we've seen the last of them, but I think that might have been the nest. What an adventure. I'm also hopeful that, you know, even if they have, oh goodness. Some of the ants seem a little bit more aggressive and seem to be chasing the isopods. So, like I mentioned, I'm taking a bit of a precaution here, not sticking my hand into the bin unnecessarily, because the ants seem to be in a defensive posture. So, but the isopods are doing really well in here. I can actually zoom in over here and watch this guy. Watch that guy in the corner navigate. You can see their antenna just moving around constantly. And here is another ant. They are definitely carrying something, and I'm concerned that if they are, oh wow, I think I just saw one, and it does appear to be carrying. Let me see if I can extract one of these ants that's carrying something and pull it out so we can observe it. Okay, I finally captured one of them. There it is. Not sure what it was carrying, but there it is. If you can identify ants, please help me. I'm not sure what it was carrying. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it. Oh my goodness. There goes another ant carrying another thing. And there are multiple. Oh goodness. Okay. So there are multiple ants right in the middle of our screen. And they are carrying something. I'm trying to make out what it is. Here's another one. Doesn't appear to be carrying anything, that one. Sorry, there it is. Okay, nothing on that one. Okay, now here we go. And that one appears to be carrying an isopod. So these ants are attacking the isopods. I was just able to make out they're attacking and carrying away small isopods. This is not good. So we have an ant species in here that seems to be farming the isopods or just killing them. And we've got our worms in here as well. So yeah, this is not a good recipe for our bin. Let me try to capture this one. See if I can get it before it gets away. I have never seen anything like this in a worm bin. Probably because I have not added in a worm bin that was just contained so many various types of critters. But I do believe that I've caught them carrying away some smaller isopods, some of the smaller sow bugs. Which I think is problematic because the sow bugs move faster than the worms do. And if they are falling prey to the ants, then I fear that the worms will as well. I'm gonna put you on a pause while I try to hunt these down and see what I find. There we go. Caught one of them. You can see the isopod in its mouth. I managed to knock it out of the bin as it was crawling away, but it did get an isopod. I'm not sure if the isopod appears to be alive still or not. Obviously, I imagine that if it were, it seems to be moving still actually. But yeah, I'm kind of concerned about what kind of ants these are. So what an interesting course of events. So obviously I do want to save the isopods, but I'm going to have to come up with a plan that will be very effective. So I'm going to go ahead and call this a day, and we'll come back to this bin when we have a plan that we can use, hopefully to round up the ants and quell this problem. So sorry for blocking the view. Thanks for joining, and we'll catch you next time. All right, I'm back outside in the area where I left the jute sack that was full of ants. And I've pulled the jute sack aside, and you can see these ants continuing to do their work. They're making themselves at home in this new environment in the wood chips. I did a little bit of research into ants and sow bugs and terrestrial isopods in general, and they typically don't predate on them. So I think that this might have been some kind of mutualistic relationship. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take this jute sack back inside and put it back into the worm bin. It's possible that the ants are actually using the sow bugs to clean out their colony, to make sure that any decaying matter is removed from their space. So I'm going to go ahead and reestablish this jute bag back into the worm bin with the few ants that have stayed behind on the bag and refuse to leave. So, and actually, before I do, it's actually interesting to see, here are the ants. You can watch them at work. Not exactly sure what it is that they are doing, but they seem very diligent about it, as ants tend to be. So yeah, I'll get them back inside into the worm bin, and I guess we'll proceed from there. All right, here I am back in the worm bin, and we're gonna just want to look at inside one more time before I put this jute bag back on top. Just kind of get an idea of what's going on in here. What an incredible series of events that we have had. And it does look like the isopods are doing just fine in this bin. Their numbers are incredible. But it's just difficult to tell what is going on with them and the ants. Are the ants using them to keep their colony cleaned out from decaying scraps? Are the ants eating them? I will point out that the ants even as I was removing the ants on the jute sack, some of those ants still had the what seemed to be the isopods with them. So perhaps they were trying to keep them safe, or perhaps they were trying to guard their meal. It's just difficult to know all around, but I will go ahead and put back the jute sack over the top of this bin. What an interesting episode. This was supposed to be about the worms, but really it's been about the ants and the isopods and what kind of relationship they have. I mean, when I see them interact, the ants don't seem to be particularly aggressive toward the isopods as a whole. And I've got another ant down in here that seems to be carrying something. I can't tell what it is. So there are some different things that ants can carry. Sometimes they carry ant larva, or rather ant pupa. And other times they carry food. Other times they're carrying other things. So it's just, overall, it's difficult to tell what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I've got another ant here carrying something small. Not sure what that is. Maybe these are just some of the, maybe this is the Uber of the worm bin. I don't know. Best way to get around is just to get an ant. I have no idea. Got another ant right in the middle of the screen. It just went behind this leaf here. And it seemed to be carrying something. It's just difficult to make out what the ants are doing right now. And of course I've got my suspicions. But they may not be accurate, so all right, well, we've spent enough time looking at the ants and their activities. I'm going to go ahead and put the worm blanket back over the top of this bin. And we will go ahead and let this bin rest. What an adventure we've had. Like we talked about earlier, I'm not going to be adding any more water to this bin. I think it has enough moisture. I did do a slight spray on an area that seemed wet, but for the most part, the bin seems to be okay moisture-wise, and the worms are able to find a nice spot down deep that seems wet. So I think that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and hope you check in next time. We'll be back in 2 weeks to see what's going on with our worms. Hopefully by then we'll have learned a little bit more about the ants that are in this bin with them, and the interesting relationship that they have with the sow bugs. Alrighty, until next time.